Welcome back to ACB Wrestling Talk, your main source for wrestling news and wrestling discussions. I'm, of course, your host, Alexis Carrillo, and let's get into some wrestling talk. Tonight is Wednesday night, and we get the very first true edition of the Wednesday Night Wars between NXT and AEW. But before that, we do have to recap what happened last night on Impact Wrestling on AXS TV. Now, I want to make one thing very, very clear is that, as some of you might know, I don't have cable, so I'm not watching these shows as they air. I try to watch Impact Wrestling as soon as it's available on Impact Plus. I tried right now, it's not available. And I'd rather watch the entire 90 minutes of the show than watch 30, 40 minutes of clips worth on their YouTube channel. So with that said, I'm just going to recap what I read that happened on Impact Wrestling and give my opinion on that. And after which, I will be watching the Impact Wrestling episode as soon as it is available on Impact Plus. The show opened with Eddie Edwards and Michael Elgin brawling off to start the show, and they had a match, which is pretty weird to me because aren't they scheduled to have another match at this Sunday's Hard to Kill pay-per-view? So why give it away last night? Why give it away on a free episode of Impact Wrestling? That doesn't really make any sense to me. But the guy who was supposed to win, the superstar that should be booked to be as dominant as possible right now, did get the victory, and that is Unbreakable Michael Elgin. In a 6-man tag team match, the Desi Hit Squad defeated the team of TJP, Daga, and Fallah Bahh. One thing that is clear to me right now is that Impact Wrestling seems to be booking the Desi Hit Squad in at least somewhat of a correct manner. Let's put it this way. The Desi Hit Squad, when it's just Rohit Raju and Raj Singh, they're good in that ring. They're effective for the most part. They don't win a lot of matches, but they can sometimes eventually get the job done. Now with the addition of Mahabali Shera, his return, now they're really pushing the envelope. They're really pushing for Mahabali Shera to be this dominant figure for the group and really make a difference, whether it be in in-ring segments, backstage segments, or in these kinds of matches. And that's what's happened. Because in the past, TJP, Daga, and Fallah Bahh, or any combination of these three superstars, would have gotten the win over the Desi Hit Squad. That's something you could have put your bet on. But now, it seems like Impact Wrestling is looking to book Mahabali Shera to be the dominant force for the Desi Hit Squad. Good on that. We got a few short vignettes for a few of the rivalries going into the Hard to Kill pay-per-view. This is the go-home show after all. Other than that, very little build-up for the pay-per-view itself. It's from what I can read, from what I read in terms of results for the Impact Wrestling broadcast last night, there's very little excitement. Again, I have to watch this show. I have no doubt that in terms of in-ring action, in terms of wrestling, it was top-notch, because that is something that Impact Wrestling has been delivering week in and week out ever since Scott D'Amore and Don Callis took over in 2018. But as far as character development and storylines, which you all know by now is one of my priorities, at least, on a personal note, it leaves a lot to be desired. Havoc defeated Rosemary in a match that surprised me. A match result that surprised me because, again, Rosemary is someone who is super over with the crowd, with the Impact audience, super over with the wrestling audience as a whole. And yeah, I get it. She had her Knockouts title run, and she had her moment in the sun, to put it that way. But, Rosemary has decided to re-sign and stick around with Impact Wrestling for the long run. Why not reward that by giving her the treatment that she deserves, which is one of the best knockouts on the roster, which should equal in 2 title reigns for Rosemary. I don't know why Impact Wrestling is deciding to go that route. I'm guessing right now their priority is Havoc versus Susie, which, although interesting, isn't at the top of my priority list. I mean, right now, in terms of knockouts, you've got to have Taya Valkyrie, you got to have Jordynne Grace, you got to have Rosemary in that title run. Havoc beat Rosemary with Susie and James Mitchell at ringside. Speaking of the knockouts, we have that six knockout action where ODB, Jordynne Grace, and Tenille Dashwood defeated the team of Taya Valkyrie, Madison Rayne, and Kiera Hogan. Obviously, them being the heels, they're not really able to get along. They have their egos, they have their attitude, so ODB, Grace, and Dashwood got the win. The interesting part was that at the end of the match, Jordynne Grace was going to pin, I believe it was Taya Valkyrie that she was going to pin, and ODB, swiftly just took her out of that pinfall attempt and pinned her herself, which caused some tension between ODB and Jordynne Grace to arouse. Now, to build up that match, the triple threat match at Hard to Kill, that's interesting. That's interesting for them to do so. Does it really matter? Do I think Taya Valkyrie is going to lose the title at Hard to Kill? I don't think she's going to lose the title at Hard to Kill. And obviously, I just gave it away because this Friday I'm going to have my Hard to Kill pay-per-view predictions, which you can tune in to right here on the ACB Wrestling Talk channel. And finally, the main event of the show, surprise, surprise, Brian Cage and Rhino defeated Moose and RVD. This is a match that could have gone either way. You could have gotten the heels some momentum by winning this match. Underhanded tactics and interference doesn't really matter, but it could have gone either way. It's just a traditional way of mixing up and smashing two rivalries and two feuds together. Every single company out there does it, so it's nothing really special. But the thing is, again, I cannot stress this enough. I have not watched the Impact Wrestling episode. I will as soon as it becomes available on my Impact Plus subscription. But as far as I'm concerned, it was, from what I've read, from what I've heard from fans' reactions for the show, it was a very lackluster show. It was a very lackluster go-home show for the Hard to Kill pay-per-view. Obviously, with the world title feud being Callahan and Blanchard and that fantastic ending we had to their Raw on December 17th and the last episode before the best of episodes, you couldn't really do anything much more than that. So, again, we'll have to wait and see, but the Hard to Kill pay-per-view predictions will come this Friday on Wrestling Talk. And again, back to the Wednesday Night Wars, because AEW had their homecoming episode last week, the very first broadcast of 2020, and they put on quite a show. And they did win the viewership. They were very darn close to 1 million viewers. I believe a little bit over 940,000 against NXT's, 500,000, 550,000, somewhere like that. But again, NXT was pretty much an awards show. It wasn't really a proper NXT episode. Tonight, Wednesday night, is a true battle. Tonight we'll see what both of these companies can do in 2020. And for AEW, we've got ourselves an AEW Women's World Championship match. Rio, of course, successful last week, defending her title in a four-way. Now, she has to face off against Chris Statlander, the number one contender to the AEW Women's World Championship. Now, in terms of predictions, do I think Rio is going to lose the title? It's very, very unlikely because, again, she successfully defended her title last week in a four-way match against three different opponents, all bigger than her, all faster than her, and she still walked out the Women's World Champion. Now, you got someone who's a bit of an X factor like Chris Statlander. I must admit, I'm getting pretty interested in her character and her aura, but is that enough to give her a run with the AEW Women's World Championship? She, as far as I'm concerned, she's not as established as she should be to be Women's World Championship. But there's one quick fix to that, and that is give her the title, let her run with it, and let us, the fans, get acquainted with Kris Statlander in that main event position in the women's division in AEW. One of the priorities for All Elite Wrestling in 2020 should be the women's division, adding some excitement to it. They've got the wrestling part down. They need some characters, they need some storylines, they need some excitement, they need buzz surrounding the AEW women's division. So as far as I'm concerned, Rio retains her title tonight. And eventually, possibly at the end of February at the Revolution pay-per-view, she will be losing her Women's World Championship title, just so that, we can get some more women athletes, women superstars involved in the title picture. We got Sammy Guevara, the sexy Spanish god, facing off against Christopher Daniels. And yeah, I gotta go with Sammy Guevara here. Maybe a little bit of interference between Jake Hager and the rest of the Inner Circle against Christopher Daniels. It also depends on where you place this match. Is it before Jon Moxley's decision, or is it after Jon Moxley's decision? But either way, right now, I'm going with Sammy Guevara. Cody and Dustin Rhodes, the Brotherhood, the Rhodes Brotherhood, team up in a battle of the brothers because they face off against the Lucha Brothers for the first time ever. It's a match I'm definitely interested in. It's definitely piqued my interest, but one thing AEW needs to define very, very fast, at least this is just my point of view, is where does Cody lie? Does Cody lie in the singles division, or does he lie in the tag team division with his brother? Where are you going to position him? Because, in a sense, at least for me, it might confuse the fans if Cody starts flip-flopping and it's very unclear what he's trying to do. I get it, he's in the middle of a rivalry with Maxwell Jacob Friedman, and we'll get to that later, but and he does have to defend his brother for the most part. That's the entire idea of him being a babyface. But I do believe that he needs to be in a defined position. He does need to be in a defined position. And speaking of defined positions, the same can apply to the team of Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, with a slight twist, because tonight the team of Hangman Page and Kenny Omega face off against Private Party in a match that, under normal circumstances, I would assure you Private Party would be the winner because they are the actual proper tag team. But right now I think AEW is building up to a Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega rivalry down the road. Where and when they start this all off, I really don't know. I don't think it's going to start right now, because as far as I'm concerned, Pac still wants his rematch with Kenny Omega. So that's going to be a little distracting for Hangman Page and Omega to be in a feud when Pac wants to still beat Kenny Omega's ass. So they still have to define that. But right now, Hangman Page and Kenny Omega might get the win over Private Party just for right now, just to give them some momentum for the future when the breakup eventually comes. Last week at Homecoming, MJF set his conditions for a match with Cody. Number one, that it would be at the end of February at the first AEW pay-per-view of 2020, Revolution, and, among other things, that Cody can't lay a finger on MJF until that match, because if he does, the match is canceled, and you damn well know that this storyline is going to play out with MJF doing everything in his power to try and piss Cody off and try to make Cody strike MJF down so that the match, doesn't really go down. And finally, he's going to face off Wardlow, MJF's big, bad bodyguard, inside a steel cage match, which I have no doubt Cody's going to win. You got to give him some momentum going into this match. But eventually, this rivalry between Cody and MJF has got to culminate. I believe they're going to have, and this is just me throwing it out there, I believe that Cody is going to face MJF at Revolution. That will happen. And at Revolution, MJF will defeat Cody with underhanded tactics and all included. MJF will get the first win over Cody. fast forward to May, where we have Double or Nothing, or whatever AEW is going to call their next pay-per-view. That's where Cody will ask MJF for a rematch. MJF will not have to agree with it. He really has nothing to gain from defeating Cody once again, except now Cody is going to put his career on the line. But MJF is going to put his entire thing of, oh, Cody can't challenge for the World Championship anymore. You know, I cost you that. If you beat me, that whole stipulation goes out the window like it usually does in professional wrestling. And eventually Cody will get his win over MJF. And then at AEW's biggest pay-per-view of the year, August or September, All Out, Cody will become AEW World Champion against whoever the World Champion is at the time. I think that's AEW's roadmap for 2020 to try to establish Cody as the face of AEW. They just need some roadblocks on his way to that ending. I'm just throwing it out there. You might not have to agree with me. It might come to pass. It might not. I might be crazy. Who knows? That's what's fun about wrestling. We speculate and we just wait and see what happens. Not only that, but Jon Moxley gets to give his answer to the idea of him joining the Inner Circle. Weeks ago, pretty much a month ago, Chris Jericho made the proposition of Jon Moxley joining the powerful, the dominant force in AEW, the Inner Circle faction, and Jon Moxley has taken his time to give his answer. Now, last week, Jon Moxley stated that tonight's broadcast on TNT, Jon Moxley would give his answer. And I don't think you have to wait a few more hours until AEW airs, because I've got the answer right here, right now. The answer is no. The answer is hell no. Jon Moxley will not be joining the Inner Circle. First of all, because he is the current #1 contender to the AEW World Championship. He will be challenging Le Champion Chris Jericho at Revolution for the title. That's number one. But number two, Jon Moxley isn't someone, at least his character right now, isn't someone who, travels in a pack. He's a loner. He's a loner. That's pretty much set in stone. And, there might be a segment where Jon Moxley, feigns that he's about to join the Inner Circle, and to turn around and drop Chris Jericho, drop Jake Hager, drop Sammy Guevara, drop Proud and Powerful, and, make the crowd in South Haven, Mississippi pop. I think that's what's going to happen tonight on Dynamite. But those are my predictions. Those are my predictions for tonight's broadcast of Dynamite on TNT. What are your predictions? Leave your thoughts and comments and predictions on the comments section below. Now we go to the other camp, to the black and yellow brand. On the WWE side of things, we go to NXT, where we got a fantastic fatal four-way match to determine the #1 contender to the NXT North American Championship. And this match involves 4 of the biggest and brightest up-and-coming superstars in NXT right now today. Number 1, the fan favorite himself, Keith Lee, who, again, not only is he the fan favorite, but he is the favorite to win this match right now. Dominik Dijakovic is also a part of this match. Damian Priest, the former Punishment Martinez in Ring of Honor, and Cameron Grimes, the former Trevor Lee in Impact Wrestling. Make no mistake about it, great match. It's set to be the main event of tonight's broadcast of NXT. The real question is, who walks out the #1 contender? Again, I've stated, fan favorite Keith Lee. He's the fan favorite. He's the favorite to win this match. But the real question is, if you have Keith Lee become #1 contender to the NXT North American title, that has to lead him to the title. That has to end in Keith Lee becoming the North American champion, which I wouldn't frown upon at all. I think Keith Lee will become champion in 2020. I just think that he's more suited for the main event division. I think he's just more suited for the NXT title. the NXT title right now is busy, so why not? Keith Lee wins this match tonight. Not only that, but we also have the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic returning, an NXT tradition so far. The Undisputed Era, the current tag team champions, face off against Gallus. Now, again, you must forgive me because I do not know who Gallus is, so I have to go with the Undisputed Era getting this win, not only because I don't know who Gallus is, but the Undisputed Era are the current tag team champions, which make him the current best tag team on the NXT roster. Imperium from NXT UK face off against the Forgotten Sons in another first round match in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Now, as much as I would want to establish the Forgotten Sons as future NXT Tag Team title contenders, I think Imperium and the Undisputed Era are set to clash very, very, very soon, so I have to give it to Imperium right here, right now. Not only that, but we've got three very interesting topics to touch upon for NXT tonight, because Rhea Ripley just became the brand new NXT Women's Champion after defeating Shayna Baszler. And yes, she'll come out and make her big celebration, but the real question is, what will Shayna Baszler, Jessamyn Duke, and Marina Shafir do to Rhea Ripley to make her life hell on the road to NXT TakeOver, I believe, Houston on January 25th? What's going to happen there? Because you damn well know Shayna Baszler is not happy at all by losing the title, and she's going to want to become the first ever three-time NXT Women's Champion. We're also certainly going to get the next chapters in Adam Cole versus Tommaso Ciampa in that battle for Goldie for the NXT Championship, and Finn Balor versus Johnny Gargano, a feud, a rivalry, a match that we're all looking forward to, that I can't wait to see at NXT TakeOver in Houston. So again, it's a pretty damn good first proper week of AEW versus NXT on Wednesday nights. So all in all, it's going to be a great night for professional wrestling fans. So it benefits you and it benefits me, the wrestling fan. So leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions in terms of what you think is going to happen on each show, and which show will you be tuning in tonight. And finally, we have to look, again, this entire week, the first week of 2020, we look at the 5 superstars to look at in 2020 for each major brand in professional wrestling. This time, we talk about NXT. So here are the 5 WWE NXT superstars to look at in 2020. Number 1, and he recently had one of the best weeks, one of the best ends of years of all time, of his entire life. Because not only did he become the brand new WWE Cruiserweight Champion after defeating Lio Rush, not only did he propose to his girlfriend, who said yes, so now he's engaged to be married, which is fantastic. Props on that. But, on a personal note, being that I am a soccer fan myself, and I couldn't be happier for these news, his Liga MX club, his soccer team, Monterrey, defeated Club America in the finals of last year's tournament to become the brand new national champions over in Mexico's professional soccer league. So, which makes me happier because I'm a Chivas fan and I hate America. And of course, I'm talking about Angel Garza, who is just a delight to just watch him perform in that ring. Ever since I first laid my eyes on this fast style Lucha Libre guys in Impact Wrestling, Angel Garza is someone to look at, definitely in 2020. In fact, he's not just someone to look at, he's someone you can't blink your eyes on because you're going to miss what he has to offer in that ring. And now that he's in NXT, I love Impact Wrestling and all, but they've got a much more superior creative team to bring Angel Garza to the next level. So, expecting a lot of great things for this guy, especially in the Cruiserweight division on NXT for 2020. The second guy I'm looking forward to watch in 2020, you all know this, it's Keith Lee, who, for all intents and purposes, might become North American champion very, very soon, very, very early in 2020, but I would not be surprised if by the end of 2020 he is, or has been, already NXT champion. He's just that damn good, and fans have gotten behind him time and time again. Number 3, Dominik Dijakovic. You know, in professional wrestling, you gotta love the big guys. They're the larger-than-life superstars. They're the guys who just immediately translate fear into the eyes of their opponents and into the eyes of the audience. And that one guy is Dominik Dijakovic. I haven't seen him speak on the mic. I do not have any idea what he is like in terms of charisma and on the mic, but for right now, he does have the presence. He is not, in terms of momentum, in terms of fan favorite, he's not in that level of Keith Lee, but Dijakovic might end up the year as the North American champion. He might be the dominant force in the mid-card division on NXT. And finally, in terms of the male superstars, we gotta look at the bro himself, Matt Riddle. He is one of the toughest SOBs in that ring, because he has a UFC or mixed martial arts background. He has that entire thing of wrestling with no boots, which I can only assume is freaking painful. And you gotta be some tough son of a bitch if you're gonna wrestle week in and week out, day in and day out in the middle of that ring, and absorb the pain that comes with not having boots on. He has a crowd behind him. Every time he comes out, I hear the crowd go, bro, 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 and why not? We got Matt Riddle. And why not? Why not? Why not at the end of the year? Why not have Dominik Dijakovic and Matt Riddle battle it out, duke it out for the NXT North American Championship? NXT has tons of talent. These are just 4 of the 5 superstars to look at in 2020. In terms of the male superstars, there's much more that I like to highlight, but again, only 5 spots for right now. And finally, we've got to look at the NXT Women's Division, and that is the newly born bad attitude, badass girl in Dakota Kai. Now, Dakota Kai is someone who I've been very fond of for quite a while, because she is very skilled in that ring. When she was a babyface, you could just look at her, and you look at her and you just want to hug her. You just want to love her. That has been her character. Now she has kind of flipped. She has kind of switched her attention to being a little bit more dominant, a little bit more fierce, a little bit more, I don't give a shit what you think of me. I'm going to do me for the first time in my career, and I think it works for her right now. Do I think Dakota Kai is going to go as far as become NXT Women's Champion in 2020? I don't think so, but this is a year where she establishes herself as a force to be reckoned with in the NXT Women's Division. So those are my 5 WWE NXT superstars to look at in 2020. Of course, on tomorrow's episode of ACB Wrestling Talk, I will be looking at AEW, and on Friday I will be looking at SmackDown. So hopefully you will be able to tune in on the following shows. And as far as today's show of Wrestling Talk, that's pretty much it. That closes it up for today. Honestly, I can say I'm looking forward to 2020 as a whole, but tonight, NXT versus AEW is going to be one hell of a night of professional wrestling. So if you like this video, hit the like button. If you dislike this video, hit the dislike button. That's it for me. See you next time.